Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Lunar Podcast. This episode is inspired by the re-emergence of the band Linkin Park. Catching up with the band is the title of this episode. So, as we all may be already aware of, the band Linkin Park, they went on a 7-year hiatus, and they have recently re-emerged back into the scene, into the public arena with a new album, a new singer, and a whole new vision, right? And this comes off a bit of a shock, right? Nobody really expected this. Now, what inspired this video, or the catalyst for this video, was actually one comment made in their first interview. So their first interview as a new band was conducted by Zane Lowe from British BBC radio commentator, who's like actually one of the best out in the business. He does really good interviews. Very thoughtful guy, very deep and analytical guy. So the one idea that struck me, right, in the whole, I think it was a 60-minute interview, there was one particular comment that struck me the most, right, and that is the point that I want to center around for this episode, which was, I think Zane, he mentioned to the band in general, what is one thing that you would like your fans to know about this new direction, right? And the bass player, Dave Farrell, he mentioned something really, really deep, profound. That I was like, oh, that makes total sense. That does. He said that, for them as a band, they went underground for 7 years, and they re-emerge back on the scene with a completely new direction. Now, for them, from the insider's perspective, for them as a band, they went through that journey, through that 7-year process, which is interesting that, it took 7 years for them to, re-emerge back into the public arena. But during that process, they were going through a journey, right? They were going through a journey of a deeper journey to, figure out their new direction in life, who they were as individuals and as a band. And, we as a public, we were completely, in the dark as to what happened there, right? But for them, they'd gone through that journey, and they reemerged 7 years later with a whole new outlook. So now that they're back into the public arena, for people like us on this side, we missed an entire journey, right? So what Dave mentioned was that now the fans have to play catch up. Right. So at this point was the band, 7 years ago, they went underground, and then they reemerged back on this side, 7 years later. Right. So the fans on this side have to kind of like catch up. Right. They have 7 years of catching up to them. But for the band, they've already been through that journey. Right. So now part of their sort of new public presentation is to give clues as to like how that occurred, right? So that's a very interesting idea and here's where it relates to us, regular folks, right? We all have to go through some kind of a journey that we have to, disappear from the world, right? From the mainstream influences, from your friends, from your families, from your job, and or sometimes even from like your own culture, and just disappear for like 7 years, right? Just completely disappear from all the people that you once knew, and then you go through this transformation. This is actually very common. So in the spiritual world, some people may go off to the east and study with like a Buddhist teacher or a yoga teacher, and then they disappear for 7 years, and then they come back to America, completely changed, completely different, something that for them is now a natural progression, but for the people that they once knew, it's a complete shock, right? So now they have catching up to them, right? So this idea of disappearing for a while, and sometimes it could take up to 7 years. 7 years is a good period to just completely disappear. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that you can that you disappear into like a foreign land. It can be introspectively, right? Going deep within yourself and just blocking out the world and just not really interacting with the world, the way that you once did, in order for you to find out who you really are, right? And this is very analogous to Joseph Campbell's thesis of like the hero's journey, right? Which it appears all over the place in various different scenarios, right? The hero goes on a journey, fights their inner demons, their inner dragons, discovers a treasure, and then come back to society, changed and transformed, and now they are an agent of change, right? And now people look at them as in complete shock. But if there is at least a slight interest in their story, now the regular folks have catching up to do to figure out their process, because for some reason all of us feel that we are all we are all preordained to go through that 7-year process of emerging into darkness to figure out who we really are, and then to be transformed and come back a bit more illuminating, so that we can give light to the world. So in conclusion, this interview that Linkin Park recently released is very interesting and profound, and there's a lot of pieces, and of course there's a lot of questions, and that's why stories are told. Stories are told because either an individual or a group of individual or a whole community goes through this 7-year transformation, and now they are back to tell the story, to lead the next generation, to lead those who haven't gone on that 7-year journey of transformation, to hopefully facilitate and make their process of transformation a bit more smoother. And that's the universal story, that's the universal narrative that gets told over and over and over every generation. The stories may be different, the cast of characters may be different, but the underlying motif is very much the same, which gives credit to Joseph Campbell, the American mythologist, for his thesis, which it explains the process very well. So this concludes this week's episode of the Lunar Podcast, inspired by the reemergence of the band Linkin Park.